Welcome to the Wake Up Dad Show. This is episode number 20.
You know, if you were to score me out of 10, what would I get? And then breaking that, I break that score down and go, what would it mean? You know, let's say they give me an 8. What would it mean for me to be a 10? And actually listening to the feedback that my kids give me as far as what can I work on. And it might be something, you know, so they bring up some bizarre things that take me from a 10 to an 8. But it's listening to that and valuing their input into this relationship. This is not just a one-way street. This is, you know, it's a team effort.
Wake up, Dad!
Are you confused and overwhelmed about your role in all the craziness that is being a dad? Are you struggling to create the life you hope for? Are you looking for other dads to share your struggles and your triumphs? Or do you just need help waking up in the morning? Join your host, Dr. Scott Vatcher, as he explores the amazing and sometimes crazy world of being a dad. This is the Wake Up Dad Show.
Hi, Dad, and welcome to another episode of the Wake Up Dad Show. This show is dedicated to you, the dad who wants more success, time, health, fitness, connection, passion, and all-around awesomeness. I'm your host, Dr. Scott, and on today's episode, I have with me a good friend, and his name is Dr. Tony Rose. He's been a health professional for over 19 years, and he's created numerous online education programs which are revolutionizing the way that we use education in an online format. He loves handstands and cross-dressing. He's got an amazing podcast called The Insightful Chiropractor, and he's the dad of 3 great kids who are ages 12, 10, and 7. So welcome to the show, Dr. Tony.
Hey, Scott, great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
No worries at all. So people got a brief picture through the bio about who you are, but let's talk about your dad story. Tell us a little bit about the story of you becoming the dad that you are today.
Yeah, well, I guess that journey started a long time ago, and I guess with my parents growing up, a fairly conservative family, father an accountant, and a stay-at-home mum, which was a real blessing. You know, fairly tight, you know, there was lots of black and white, no grey in the parenting there. And I think one of the things that was quite striking to me was, you know, my past and how that influences me as a dad, or what I had visioned as me as a dad. And then, obviously, just over 12 years ago, we had our first child, Flynn, and you know, he's now 12 and heading off to high school next year, so that's pretty cool. And then 2 girls following. And I think a lot of it was, you know, I look back now and think it was fairly unconscious decisions that happened. And I think, you know, one thing is that I would like to, you know, implore that dads or dads to be have a real think about is the life they're living right now, and then what's the potential that is going to change in their life by having kids. And that's not to say that it's negative, but it just is different. And I don't think consciously I understood that fact that life was going to be different. I thought it was just something that was going to happen. We're going to have kids, all was good, and we just keep kind of living the same life we lived. But soon realised that things were a heck of a lot different. And so that doesn't change. And I think one of the challenges of being a dad, and particularly in this modern world where it's busy and information's everywhere, is that change is the inevitable. And you think you've got something hooked, and you think you've got something nailed, and then the goalposts get moved, or the child changes, or the situation changes. So being, you know, very flexible, I think, is a great skill to have as a dad.
Totally agree, and yeah, good point to make, because it's not just, you know, think about adding something. It's like, oh yeah, no, life's going to change. I'm going to add in this exercise routine, and then, you know, when you get bored of it, then you just stop doing it. But kids is the real deal. Kids is the permanent deal. They don't go away. Yeah. They're there, and life changes forever. And I've said it before, and I'll say it many more times, I believe, as time goes on with this podcast, is that, you know, you can't be prepared. no matter what you think and what you've heard from other people who have been parents and this and that. And, oh yeah, I'm ready. You're not. You're never ready until you do it, and then even then you're not ready. You deal with it because it's already happened.
Yeah. That knowledge of saying, you know what, I'm not ready, but I know that I'm not ready, and I think that's the difference for me. And I was sort of, I just didn't realise that I wasn't ready, which came then as a shock, and that was a stress in itself. But since then, learned to embrace the change and embrace the variance and all that comes with parenting. And I think you're right. It's adding things. I think parenting. I think in its purest form is a process of elimination. It's eliminating. And I love your 5P model, because a lot of it's eliminating the stuff that's preventing those 5Ps from being expressed fully as a dad. I think we're going to get more benefit from removing the shit in our life that get rid of the weeds allows the flowers to grow kind of concept, and more than things you need to add, because adding stuff can feel, I think for me, certainly more stressful than getting rid of stuff.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, maybe over time there'll be a 5P model of shit to take away.
the 5Ps to piss off. Yeah.
That's good. So yeah, let's talk about the 5Ps. The listenership out there are probably starting to get a good idea, but I'm just going to review them for everybody. So the show is dedicated to dads who want more, the dads who have fallen asleep, literally and figuratively fallen asleep and become unconscious about who they are as men, as dads, as lovers, as people. And there's 5 main categories that I think need to be addressed, and those are what we're calling the 5Ps. P number 1 is purpose, the reason why you're here and the legacy that you want to leave behind. P number 2 is power, and that's reaching optimal health and taking control of your life. P number 3 is parenting, which is being the best version of ourselves for our kids and our partners. And number 4 is providing, taking care of our family. And number 5 is passion in our relationships and in our life. So I like to get into, which of those 5 Ps do you feel like you've had some significant struggle with, that you've overcome, that some of the dads out there listening may get some help from the struggles that you've been through.
Yeah, look, I mean, you know my story, and definitely the one that comes up for me is the power in the past. I'm a single dad, and what was it, just over 5 years ago, what I thought was pretty amazing thing we had going, living the life, great practice, successful in my definition of success, living in a beautiful house and very beautiful kids and all that sort of stuff. And then my world was turned upside down, and I'm not saying that was done to me, but was certainly a massive hit to my power and my health. I went through a significant downturn in health, and that was highlighted when I was in Sydney one weekend for a board meeting. At the time, I was on the board of the Australian Spinal Research Foundation, and was sitting next to a friend and colleague, and my hands started turning blue, and I thought, this is a bit weird, what's going on here? And then we got up to go to dinner, and I collapsed, and that was the beginning of me being able to actually get honest with myself to say, you know what, this stress of this marriage breakdown is actually having an amazing effect on my health. And from then on, I lost a lot of weight. I don't have a lot of weight on me. I lost a lot of weight. Was in a pretty bad way for quite a while, with my adrenals just packing it in. And so I had to find, obviously I'm a chiropractor and I was getting adjusted, but I had to find more things that would support my system to really rehabilitate from that. And it wasn't just a case of being able to take away the stress, because that was there and that was going to be there for a while, but how could I facilitate helping my body deal with it as good as possible? And that's when I got into yoga. I had some nutritional support that I needed, some counselling that I needed, and trying to address this from all the different aspects of health that we need to rebuild. And that was a process over years, Scott. It wasn't, it didn't happen in weeks or months. This was, I feel in some respects I'm still rebuilding. So it's certainly was a minimum of 3 years for me to get myself back to where I thought, okay, I've got a handle on this now, and I can move forward. So that was massive, a massive time. But I look now back and go, I'm very grateful for all the lessons I learnt and what I can now share with other people, other dads, patients, and other people going through similar situations.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great part about it is it really comes back to the way that we view it in the end, to go, oh, that was such a rubbish time in my life, or, look at the lesson. Look at how fantastic this lesson has been. And just circling back to adrenal fatigue. So for people out there, that can show up in so many different ways. In your case, the big one was weight loss, and that's quite a common one. But weight gain can be a major issue for a lot of dads out there too, and not just your typical beer belly that happens over the last 10 years, but dads out there that are actually really trying to lose weight, and they can't figure out why they're not losing weight. Adrenal fatigue is a big one to look at, and it's such an all-encompassing thing, isn't it? You said yoga, nutrition, counseling, chiropractic, getting your nervous system right. All these different things are super important, and there's no magic bullet. There's no one thing that's going to fix anything. It really comes down to figuring out what your body needs to be healthy, what your mind needs to get well, and doing it on a daily basis, doing it you said it was a process. It took years, and that's so important. It's the day in, day out, isn't it? There's no magic bullet. There's no quick fix or magic potion that's going to fix everything instantly.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and now it guides it guides a lot of the decisions that I make now. And, I was running long distance, half marathon distance, and it was just, my body was eating away. So I had to stop doing that and, focus on other areas of fitness that would actually build me up. And so, some great lessons there. And I'm sure there's a lot of people and a lot of dads that are, maybe doing the wrong type of exercise for them. And just have a look. And again, one of my mantras in life is, how's it going for you? And I find there's too many people, thinking that they're doing the right thing, even though the results are showing absolutely the opposite, but they keep doing the same old thing. So, if there's one question that I'd implore the dads to ask themselves is, how's it going for you? And, how's it going for you arguing with your spouse? How's it going for you sitting on the couch every night? How's it going for you putting that chocolate in your mouth, or whatever it is? How's it going for you? And if it's not going for you well, then frickin' change it. It's not rocket science.
It really isn't, is it? I mean, there's so much out there today, and this podcast is just another example of helping people to become better versions of themselves. But really, it's not rocket science. It's just about doing. It's really about doing. I love that. How's it going for you? Great question.
Yeah. So I think that's certainly the one that I've had the biggest challenge with, and still to this day, still challenging with it. So yeah.
It never ends, does it?
No.
I think that's one of the biggest lessons to learn as time goes on. And I'm 40. So there's lots of time left to learn. But as time goes on, I'm not 25 anymore. I have learned a lot since that age, and that struggle never stops. It changes. It metamorphosizes. It becomes different, but it's always there. And I think the more you want to challenge yourself to be a better dad, the more that struggle is going to show up, and that's okay.
Yep, absolutely.
So, do you have any big lessons that you've learned through your dadhood experience that you want to share with the listeners?
Look, I think the big thing that comes up for me is congruency, and what I mean by that, and one of the principles that I'd like to sort of get put out there to other dads is that the non-aggression principle, and that guides my parenting. And so, for those that don't know what the non-aggression principle is a principle that says that no human being has the right to express force upon another human being, and that can be manifested in a lot of ways. Taxation in a political sense, violence, and all that sort of stuff. But it also means, the way I look at that as parenting is to say, I don't have the right to yell, grab, hit, whatever it is you want to call it. And this notion of, the disguise of violence under the disguise of discipline, I think, is one of the tragedies of our human existence. And so I would like to challenge the dads out there to have a look and see, where are they violating the non-aggression principle with their kids and within the realm of parenting, and let's look at solutions to come up with non-violent solutions. And the classic example is, I've seen it a lot, is a kid, runs out onto a road, the parent grabs them and gives them a whack across the leg and says, "Don't run onto the road," and thinking that that's going to stop them running out on the road. Now, the results might show that it does stop the child running out onto the road, but they're doing it out of fear, not out of learning. And so that's a big difference. And to say that it's the parent's responsibility, it's my responsibility as a dad to keep my children safe. So if my child has run out onto the road, that is my fault. Why would I choose to punish the child for something that's my fault? So congruent messages like that, I think, is the biggest thing I've learned as a dad, is to sit back and actually say, is this my fault, my problem, or is this someone else's problem? And taking responsibility for the things that are actually in our control as dads. So that'll be the biggest one, Scott. Pretty in-depth answer, but
no, that's all right. And I think it's a great answer. And what I'll do is throw out there, I'm sure there's some dads out there thinking, but when that kid runs out in the street and I give him a little smack, then that's just my instinct. And yeah, I get that. And
stop your instinct.
Well, yeah, and exercise that muscle, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Because as those instincts become, as you become more aware of things like that, then you become more aware of what you might be able to do to change those things. And I think another big thing is, let's not kid ourselves. It's not like we never lose it at our kids. The key is that when that happens, and when I say lose it, like, become angry and maybe not parent in the best way, or parent in a way that you didn't think that you would, or whatever the case is then owning up to it.
Yep.
And talking to your kid about it and going, listen, when this happened, Dad was wrong. I was wrong, and I'm sorry for that. How blah, 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 you might have done something wrong the other day and we talked about it and you apologized for doing that. Well, that's what I'm doing with you right now, because just because I'm your dad doesn't mean I get it right all the time.
Yeah.
Just because I'm your dad doesn't mean I know best about everything. I do the best with what I know how, and sometimes I mess up, and for that I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I think that's such an important thing to get out to our kids, because it teaches them that, yeah, we're not perfect. It teaches them that we do our best, and that's about all we can expect is for us to do our best in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And it feeds into another point, which is, as people in jobs, or, let's say you're an employer, how do you know that you're being a good employer or a good boss? I mean, you ask your employees and you say, how am I going? And they rate you and all that sort of stuff. I don't know that there's many dads out there that are asking their children how good they are as a dad. And it's something that I check in with regularly with my kids is, guys, how am I doing as a dad? If you were to score me out of 10, what would I get? And then breaking that, I break that score down and go, what would it mean? Let's say they give me an 8. What would it mean for me to be a 10? And actually listening to the feedback that my kids give me as far as, well, what can I work on? And it might be something, so they bring up some bizarre things that take me from a 10 to an 8. But it's listening to that and valuing their input into this relationship. This is not just a one-way street. This is, it's a team effort.
That's awesome. I've never heard that before. And, as a practicing health practitioner, we ask our clients about that all the time.
Yeah.
Hey, how am I doing? Give the office a rating, and if it's not a 10, what can we do better?
Correct.
That's awesome. So I'm gonna ask my kid that today.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a formal sit-down chat. I mean, I often do it, if we're sitting in a tree or we're, doing something that's not sitting at the dinner table and it's an official conversation. It's a sitting up in a tree and go, this is great. Hey, dude, how am I doing as a dad? What would you score me? What would you score me this time?
Yeah.
And I just think there's some valuable information, and but it takes a bit of balls to do that, but I think it's a great thing to do. Give it a whirl.
Yeah, and kids are honest.
Absolutely. And like some of the responses are just they're classics. It won't be what you expect.
Yeah, it gives you an insight into what they're thinking, because
what they value.
Because we view what we view, and we got the way we are through our experiences, and our kids have different experiences, so they're going to see things differently. So that's awesome. If there's a take home for today, we'll see if there's any more big nuggets as we go, but that one in particular, that's a great one. That if nobody takes anything else away, I reckon that's one of the gold nuggets. So with that said, of the 5 P's, is there one that you think that you're smashing, that you feel really good with at the moment, and that you might be able to share some wisdom about for the dads listening?
Yeah, I think the one that comes to mind is the parenting P under another umbrella that I'd like to add another P for you, Scotty, which is play. Was it the same one?
It's the same one. I was thinking about another P and figuring out, okay, where's the fun, where's the play? And I think it can be incorporated. But yes, that is exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, see, for me as a dad, it's the overarching. It's covered in all of the other 5. And so, parenting can be pretty serious at times, but it can still be playful. And and I think something that I instill in my kids is this sense of play. And that's not to say that it's always party time at my house, but it's fun. We have a sense of play with everything, and I think it only bonds us closer. Because you see it, you go to playgrounds and there's 30 kids on the playground and 2 parents actually playing. And generally it's me and
what are the other parents doing?
They're all sitting around chatting or on their iPhones or whatever it is. So I think another take home would be to actually get active and play and be not just interested in what your kids are doing, but actually be active in what they're interested in doing, not what you're interested in doing. And it's awesome. And certainly keeps me young. Or certainly keeps me feeling young anyway, when you're doing monkey bars and all sorts of stuff. It was just the other night we were out the front. The girls had their skateboards and scooters, and Flynn and I were kicking the footy. And then I got the old rollerblades out, which I used to use back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and cranked out the rollerblades on the street. And the kids were just, their eyes lit up. They go, Dad, I can't believe you can do that. It was just another example of them just being sort of blown away that, hey, my dad can rollerblade. But just having a go at stuff, I think, is...
Now, am I wrong? I'm a big rollerblader too, and funny enough, I've just pulled mine out, looking at joining up with an unofficial roller hockey league.
Right.
That took my daughter roller skating. And when I went, I was like, oh, wow, they play hockey here every Wednesday. So I've been meaning to go out and have a check out of it. But another friend of mine here in Australia has told me rollerblading isn't cool.
It went through... It was cool back in the late 90s and early 2000s. And I used to live here in Melbourne on the beach, on the foreshore with a good friend of mine, Dr. Angus. And we used to rollerblade most evenings. And... we thought we were cool anyway, Scotty, so I'm not sure whether it actually was cool, but we thought we were cool. And
okay, cool.
Yeah, now it is considered a little bit uncool, but
I think it was much cooler over in Canada because when it was the summertime and the ice wasn't there, you wanted to skate somehow, so you got your rollerblades out. But supposedly, he is a skater, he is a skateboarder.
Yep.
And he was like, if you take those rollerblades out, I'm not going with you. I'm not going to be seen with you.
Yeah. So I think that brings in another P there. I think, Scotty, is perception, and I think too many dads worry about other people's perceptions of them. You mentioned in the bio, my love of handstands and cross dressing. It's I think I'll crank out a handstand anywhere because it's fun, it's playful. I mean, my daughters are constantly doing handstands and cartwheels and all that sort of stuff. So why wouldn't I want to do them with them? And even if it's deemed inappropriate by other people's perceptions, I don't give a fuck. It's like, I'm there having fun with my kids. Why wouldn't I? So I think if people can break through that fear of being looked at as a bit weird or a bit, whatever, let it go.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter in the end, does it?
No.
Especially these people walking down the. I saw this chick the other day, and she was skipping down the street like people go for a run or a jog. She was skipping.
Great.
And, she was in her 30s, and she was loving it. And I was like, "That's awesome." Looking at her, going, what's she doing? Why is that? Yeah. It's a great exercise.
Absolutely.
You go. I tried it. You go really fast. I reckon you could skip faster than you could run over a period of time.
Yeah.
So anyways, absolutely. Another good lesson is to who gives a shit what these guys think, man. It really doesn't matter. You know what matters in the end? What do your kids think?
Yeah, absolutely. What you think of yourself and what, absolutely.
Cool. So, is there anything that you do as a daily routine that helps you to be the best dad out there?
Look, I think probably the biggest thing is meditation, and again, it's that brings back to that concept of stopping doing things. Stopping stressing out, stopping being here, there, and everywhere. And I think meditation for me has been a real gift to be able to take a moment to just be still, just be peaceful, and take time out so that the rest of the day just goes smoother. I can be more present by having that period of downtime or silence. I can then be more present with my children. I can be more present with my work. I can be, focus a whole lot better. So I think, and again, the word meditation does tend to get a bit of a bad rap. But if you just called it quiet time or reflection or whatever you want to call it, I would encourage dads to incorporate it into your life, whether it's, getting a meditation app or however you need to do it, get into it. And it doesn't need to be for an hour a day. It could be for 10 minutes. That's all it takes.
Yeah, so what does it look like for you? Because this is a topic that's come up in a number of these interviews so far, is meditation. So what does that look like for you? Do you do a guided meditation? Do you use an app? Do you do 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour or 7 days? Or
when I first started, which was, again, part of my recovery, some years ago, which I used an app, Headspace, and it was a beautiful mix of guiding and silence for people that kind of need a bit of a to-do, like how do I actually do it? It's a fantastic way. They have a free program, 10 minutes a day for 10 days to get you going, which is a terrific app. Now I don't need to use the app. Sometimes I do, but most of the time I don't. Most of the time I just find myself in a comfortable position. I shut my eyes, I focus on my breathing and just quieten the mind. It really is simple. But it can be scary for some people who have been living, with the voices in their head going 24/7, so they fill their day and fill their distractive day to try and quieten those, so they don't hear those voices going on in their head. We all have them. But meditation is something that can really, it's not overpowering those voices, actually quietening those voices. And, the impact is profound. I've found to be profound for me. Research shows that it's profound. And, certainly of the more successful people that I've interviewed over the years of what I would define as success, certainly the majority of those have a meditation practice.
Yeah, I'd agree. I must admit, I'm definitely one that struggles with it. So, thanks for giving me a bit of insight into it, and maybe I should give it a go.
Give it a whirl.
Every time I've tried, I fall asleep,
and that's okay. It's like, I don't know. I just think that's okay. Just maybe choose a different time of day to do it. Whether it's get up, do your morning routine, shower, then take 10 minutes to meditate.
Don't do it lying down.
Don't do it lying down. And don't do it at the end of the day. Do it
Yes.
either in the middle of the day, seated, or sort of first thing in the morning. That's when I'm at my best. Is when I'm meditating consistently at the beginning of the day or in the middle of the day. That's when I find the best results.
All right. I'll
And
give it another
as you
go.
say, seated with no neck support, so that you don't just lean your head back and fall asleep sitting up. Actually self-supported.
Yes. So for those chiropractors or chiropractic clients out there that are listening, I would try and do my meditation while I was on my Denerol, and that's just a recipe for sleep. So I'll try some seated stuff, some seated yoga, or even just quieting the mind, like you said.
Yeah.
Just taking some deep breaths. You don't really have to do much else.
Yeah, you don't need to get the incense on and the chimes going, and wherever you are, just take 10.
Yeah.
I do it sometimes in the car. I do it in a beanbag. I do it on a couch. I do it on the floor. I do it, wherever I am, and I just need to take 10 and okay, this next 10 minutes, phone goes on airplane mode, and I'm out. I'm out within myself. Huge.
Cool. So if you had 2 minutes in front of a room of 1,000 dads, what would be your greatest wake up dad message to them? What would be something that you could give them for a term I'm calling DADWORK, which is something I'm trying to give them some ideas, give you guys some ideas out there as to some things that you can be working with, just small things, because it's the small daily changes that are going to make the difference.
Yeah, I think the biggest dad work I could suggest would be to ask your kids how you're going. And I would do it if you've got more than one child. I would do it individually. So you might be out, trimming some trees with your son or daughter. Ask them then, or bath time. Ask them then. And just check in with them. And I would also just encourage them to ask, how's it going for me?
Yeah.
How are the 5 Ps going for me? And get real with where they all are, so that you can then improve them and get better.
Yeah. Us as dads, as men, we're, I'm generalizing here, but, communication is probably not the strongest point for us as dads when we think about our relationships, say, with our significant others. But that's going to become incorporated into our relationship with our kids. There's no doubt about that, and so opening up that line of communication and not making them wrong for it. So, if you get an answer that you don't really like a 5 out of 10 or like a 3 out of 10, or, not to get mad at them for that, but to, take that on board and go, okay, do I want this 3 out of 10 that's now when this kid is 6 to be a 1 out of 10 when this kid is 16?
Yep.
And that's where the work comes in, the day in, day out of how do we change things, how do we become better. That's such a great message.
Yeah, and I think the harder that concept seems to be to you, as a dad, the more important it is to do. Because if the answer really scares you, it means that you are really out of touch, and I think you're a long way from where you could be the greatest dad. So the anxiety in that is going to reap the most reward. And again, stepping up as a man and as a dad is to say that if that's important, and that is important, to do it. And going on that concept is done is better than perfect.
Done beats perfect every time. Yep. So do you have an app or a book or a gadget or a game or an author or something that you're just loving?
Well, I'm pretty excited. We just bought, when I say we, my Angus and I just bought boosted boards. You know about boosted boards?
No.
Electric skateboards.
Oh, okay.
So look up boosted boards on YouTube or online. They're these cool electric skateboards, and we're waiting for them to be delivered with bated breath. So it's going to be very exciting. But they're pretty cool. They go 22 miles an hour. You get up to I think it's 8 miles on a charge, uphill, downhill. You've got brakes. They're going to be cool.
So is it
They're like a longboard.
Booster, like booster rocket?
Boosted.
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 Oh wow, that's going to be awesome. I'll
Check
hear
it
it from you. Hear it from you next time when you've got your broken arm.
Exactly. Broken arm, broken pride, all that. It's about to happen.
All in one. That's awesome. So, Dr. Tony, if dads out there are resonating with stuff you want to that you've said and they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Look, probably the best way is to. I think I have a website up, drtonyrose.com.au, I think it is. Should be able to get into me there, or they can email me at drtony, drtony, at spin.net.au.
Cool. Well, that was awesome. I totally think that asking your kids how am I going is just such a profound question that can really change everything. So thanks for that.
For sure.
Well, Dad, that's another episode done for today. Dr. Scott signing off. And remember, dads, let's keep becoming better dads together.
Do you want to know more about the Wake Up Dad movement? Go to www.thewakeupdadshow.com to download any and all past issues of the show, claim your free gift, or to directly ask Dr. Scott any questions you have. Continue the conversation on the Facebook group Wake Up Dad. Share this podcast with other dads on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure to subscribe to the show and give us a rating so we can reach more dads. And dads, one last thing. Wake up!